Hello everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Okta Meriza, and today I will be doing a presentation for Speaking for Academic Purposes course. And the things that I will bring out today is a review or analysis of the paper that I have already chosen from the Journal of English Language Learning. And I think I will show you the table of contents first, which is I will bring out some of the important points, and I think I will start it with basic information first. For the title of the paper is Using Literature Circle Strategy in Teaching Reading Comprehension. The author is Neng Fitri Ananda Julianti and published year in 2018, and it was published in Journal of English Language Learning website. And then I will be moving on to the reason why I chose this paper. So this research paper intends to improve students' reading comprehension of narrative text by using literature circle strategy at the first grade of senior high school. And it intends to teach how to use classroom actions research CAR, which is conducted to solve the student's problem in English reading. And then to implement the circle strategy to help succeed the students' reading comprehension of narrative texts and to examine students to develop a more complete picture of things they read and lead them into a deep understanding of the text. And then I will be talking about the issues or problems that are raised in this paper. So what are the issues that the researcher bring out to this paper? So the issues raised in this paper is how children, especially high school students, still have limited understanding in reading narrative text. Additionally, the problem addressed is one that many Indonesian people likely face, which is the low level of comprehension in reading and implementing English narrative text and lessons in school. Furthermore, there is the limitation of students and their motivation in understanding English texts due to the lack of vocabulary knowledge in English. Next, we'll explain the key findings that I have found in this paper. So I will talk about the purpose first. So there are several key findings that I can present in this paper. First, the author's goal and the purpose of this research is to serve as a guide for students in understanding and enhancing critical thinking that in what they read in the narrative text, discussing and reflecting on what they read and helping them to comprehend the context of the text. This is also what should be implemented by teachers, and a technique called the circle strategy. In this paper, the author or the researcher analyzes how this technique can work in learning, especially in students' reading comprehension. And then for the concept behind the paper is the researchers study the issues of students face during the reading process. The researcher emphasizes on how learning can be impacted by the circle strategies implication and how this literary circle technique might help students understanding English narrative text. And during classroom action research or CAR, an approach to research conducted by teachers or educators in the classroom improve the learning process. The idea is to collect data and directly engage with the community, especially specifically high school in Majalengka, by observing the performance of teachers, and the researcher also emphasized and to make sure the teaching learning processes in line with the lesson plan or not. So those are the key findings that I have already found and conclude in this slide. And then I will moving on to the research methodology. So the research methodology used by the researcher includes observing students' responses with the literature circle strategy activity, and the researcher uses voting method to observe students' responses, assigning students to respond to several instructions such as whether they are enthusiastic about the learning and classroom activities, and how active they are during the learning process, and their feedback on the discussion technique in this literature circle strategy. And then the researcher also used the interview method to obtain data from the students to identify the factors that can influence the students with this learning technique, and factors such as whether they can understand the material easily using this technique, or how the literature circle strategy can help them improve their reading skills in narrative text. So, what is the research methodology that the researcher uses? So, the researcher also used two different techniques to analyze this issue. The first one is data quantitative. So, quantitative data is a type of data that is in numerical form or can be measured numerically. This data is used to explain phenomena or variable using quantitative measures such as quantity, length, weight, frequency, or percentage. The researcher used the formula created by Anna Sugiono to analyze data on the average students' understanding and their achievements after implementing the literature circle strategy. And then the second one is the qualitative data. So qualitative data is descriptive or categorical in character and typically consists of words, text, or symbols that describe the features, characteristics, or qualities of an object or phenomena. This information is used to better comprehend non-numerical components such as perceptions, opinions, and experiences. And in this method, the researcher uses observation and interviews to examine events during the learning process, such as teachers' performance, whether they are concerned about the students' response, and whether the strategy is effective as intended. The researcher also uses this observation to report whether the literature circle strategy technique is beneficial in helping students build an understanding of narrative text. So those are the research methodology that the researcher uses for the in this paper. And then this is the several key findings that I can paraphrase in this paper. So as we can see in the slide, we are starting from the implementing first. So implementing is the word that can be paraphrased as bringing, which means the goal of this analysis is to bring the literature circle strategy as a facility for students in narrative text learning. Second one is observation. The second term, observation, can be paraphrased as reviewing, indicating that the researcher is searching for information through reviews that have been gathered from students' replies and activities using this literary circle technique. Starting with the teacher's performance in the learning process, the students' improvement, and the results that they have obtained, the researcher compiles all the elements that require review. And then the third one is learning teaching. Learning teaching word here can be paraphrased as educational process, meaning how the literature circle strategy can transform the teaching and learning process into a good method to be implemented in the educational process, especially in reading narrative text. A literature circle strategy can help students with critical thinking, text comprehension, major idea identification, vocabulary development, and finally drawing conclusion from the book. Now I will moving on again to the visual data. So I will explain what visual data that the researcher used to present this background in this paper and whether this visual data is valuable in implementation as well as its purpose. So the researcher employed a table in the data, but I converted it into a combination chart and the researcher calculated the percentage based on the students' votes. As shown in the chart column, it occurs as stating that this data is very reliable and can be applied to determine the patterns that the students perceive. And in the data, there are two types of tests used by the researcher. The first is an observation of the accuracy of the learning process called the pre-elimination test, where the researcher includes a passage with related questions and two options for the students to vote on, either yes or no. Second, the researcher provides a passage that has specific information for the student's respondents, such as questions based on the initial interview procedures, and these allow the researcher to conclude what the students experience or feel while using the literature circle strategy in learning, whether they find it easier to comprehend the material, whether they are interested in the technique, or even if they are enthusiastic about the learning of technique that will help them comprehend the reading of narrative text into English. These responses will be given by the students in the form of yes or no vote. It can be seen in the combination of these charts shows that more students voted yes than no. In the table provided by the researcher, they created a percentage type to input the data, indicating that student interest in the literature circle strategy technique is really substantial. Now we are already at the end, nearly the end of this presentation. I will explaining the brief conclusion and summary of what that I have already compiled into this presentation. So this classroom action research was carried out the first grade at SMA Negeri 1 Jatitujuh, and the number of students was 36. The study was conducted in two cycles and used a literature circle technique to enhance students' comprehension of narrative text. This is what the researcher bring out to this paper. And the research cycle was divided into four phases: preparation, action, observation, and reflection. The study concluded that employing a literature circle technique can improve students' reading comprehension, particularly for narrative text. Literature circle can help students develop a critical thinking skill, analyze text, identify important ideas, improve vocabulary, and reach conclusions. And literature circles are a recommended way for teaching and learning in the classroom. So the researcher used this paper to make a comparison between using or not using the circle strategy technique in classroom learning implementation and what its benefits are in the process of teaching narrative text, reading, and whether students can easily understand the provided material. Furthermore, teachers also greatly need this technique to provide students with the ability to think critically, easily understands the text, improve vocabulary skills, and it can be used to enhance student learning assessment. So I think that was all that I can say or bring today for today's presentation. I think this paper is very useful or helpful to indicate a student's interested in learning process technique. So I think that's all that I can explain today, and I am really sorry if there are some mistaken information or mistaken words during the presentation. So I think that's all from me now. I will end it in here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.